Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kat and this is Catadactyl. So today I'm doing my August wrap-up. So, as you guys know, I got a new job at the beginning of August, which means that in August I read less books than normal, but I still read quite a few, so let's go ahead and get right on into it. So the first book that I read was The Lake by Banana Yoshimoto. Now I had been planning to read this for Japanese June, but I just didn't get around to it, and I finally read it, and it was not what I was expecting. So we're following a woman as she is kind of living a humdrum life in Tokyo, and she isn't really fitting in, and then we meet a man that she starts to see across the way in his window, and they slowly start a relationship. And then he takes her to the lake. I had really high hopes for this. I was thinking that it was going to be a cult novel or some sort of underground in Japan novel. Instead, it was a very weird tapering off novel where it just never goes to any place, just never goes anywhere. So for this one, I think I want to give it 2 stars. I was not impressed and I don't really recommend it. So the next book that I read was Strip by Catlyn Ladd. So disclaimer, this is a friend of a friend's book, and she is a university professor who paid a large portion of her school fees by stripping on the side. So, like I said, she is an academic, so a lot of the issues that she brings up are how we view women's bodies through the male gaze or through a cultural lens that may or may not be correct. She also speaks to the ways in which academics often say stripping has never been looked at before, and she's like, it has been though, but stripping has never been looked at before through the lens of the strippers themselves. So she is providing that lens. Now, I found this book really, really engrossing, and I couldn't look away. A lot of the slang and the terms and the way in which stripping works I found really captivating. However, I had a slight problem with the tone of the author. She's very full of herself and she critiques everyone else constantly, and she rarely critiques herself. I think twice in the book she admits to having white privilege and to having like a privileged background. For the amount that she critiques others, I just found it really annoying. But the meat of this novel is really strong, so I give it 4 stars overall. Okay, and the next book that I read was Comrade Loves of the Samurai by Saikaku Ihara. Now, this is a reimagining of different tales of samurai falling in love with other samurai, or feudal lords, or pages, or just love between a samurai and someone else, essentially. Now, I read this when I needed some pick-me-up love stories, and let me tell you, there were some of those in here, and some of them were horribly depressing. So, in the Japanese style, I should have known better. Some of the stories are pretty much like they commit seppuku, which is death by sword to the stomach. And some of them, they do live happily ever after together. So it's a total mixed bag. It's a mixed bag, but that's kind of Japanese way of representing things. They represent all sides of things. Not everything is a happy ending. But some of these were so touching and I really, really loved them. I really recommend this if you're into it. So overall, I think I would give this 4 stars. It is well worth the read and it gives you a really good look into forbidden love culture in Japan. Alrighty, and the next thing that I read was Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind Volume 2, which my husband very generously checked out from his school library. And this obviously follows the events of Volume 1. Now, if you have seen Nausicaa of the Valley of the Winds, the movie, which came out in 1984, and the success then prompted Miyazaki to fund Studio Ghibli, yay! You will know that the movie is kind of a mashup of different elements of different volumes. So actually, reading this, I didn't know most of what was going on. It was my first time reading it ever. So it goes into the formation of Nausicaa's character and how the different countries within the world that the Tomekians are invading, how they are coming together and falling apart, and what is happening with the environment. So as someone who really loves the movie, these are absolutely essential, and I need to pick up Volume 3 really soon. Okay, and the next book that I read was The Minotaur Takes a Cigarette Break by Sherrill. This was for Hiroshima's book club of last month, and I had been dying to read this book for a really long time. and it didn't exactly live up to expectations. So what happens is that the Minotaur of Grecian legend, instead of being killed in the labyrinth, he instead chisels his way out and he lives essentially forever in the world. So he has gone through times of togas up until modern day when he's flipping burgers in the back of a restaurant. And we are kind of seeing how he lives now and how he's just filled with existential sadness, depression, and dread, essentially. And yeah, it's kind of like the Minotaur is a huge downer, but then there's so many things that you could read into his behavior. There's a lot of comment on like what makes a man and living in the present and forgetting the past. There's like a lot to go into, but overall I think that what it was trying to do, I think it only vaguely did. So I give it 3 stars. I'm not mad that I read it at all. Like I said, I've been wanting to read it for a really long time. I'm just a little sad that it didn't have more of the Greek myth. Largely the Minotaur has forgotten all the stuff that happened in the past because it was so long ago. So we're just following kind of a depressed Minotaur in the current day, and we don't learn that much about his Minotaur past. So I'm not mad that I read it, and I did quite enjoy it. So overall, I give it 3 stars, not mad. And the last thing that I read in August was My Solo Exchange Diary by Nagata Kabi. Now, in June or July, I read the first by Nagata Kabi, which is My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness. It's kind of a memoir where the author is drawing her life. So she has social anxiety problems, she has trichotillomania problems, she has kind of just problems moving on with her life, she has self-esteem issues, she has a really deep connection to her mother, and she's finding it really hard to move out of the house. There's some family dynamics that are going on. And in this second volume, My Solo Exchange Diary, she's writing as if she's writing to a pen pal, only the pen pal is herself. I found it to be more an examination of her family's dynamics than anything else. So in this one, she's exploring like how her mother is not just her mother, but an adult operating in her own life, and she's kind of taking a step back to view other people, not just from like a help me perspective, but from a like, oh, they have their own stuff going on as well, like, but of course that stresses her out too, because now she's thinking about everyone else and not just herself. So I really do recommend these mangas if you like slice of life, or you like people who are going through a lot and they're trying to document their journey. So I want to just briefly mention the 2 books that I'm currently reading. So the first book that I want to mention is Cage of Zeus, and I'm reading it with Navali KJ. I will leave their link down below. So this is a sci-fi that deals a lot with gender. And the other book that I'm reading is Re Jane, which was gifted to me by an old professor, now a friend. And this is a Jane Eyre retelling through a Korean woman's perspective in New York City. So both of them are quite different, and I am just making my way through them. And I can't believe summer's already over, but I'm so ready for fall. Like, bring on the flannels. So I hope you're having an awesome day. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up or hit the subscribe button. That would be awesome. And I look forward to chatting to you guys in the future.